Hello, everyone. Welcome to the FTX podcast. This is going to be a fun episode. We have three co-founders of Magic Eden here, Zhuoxun, Jack, and Sidney. Welcome, guys. Great to have you on.
Amazing. Yeah.
Amazing.
Thanks
Nice
for
to be
having
here.
us.
Thank you. for having
Thanks,
us.
Kristen.
Yeah.
To Rex, who's not here today. He's about to have a baby.
Yeah.
Next time, all four of us will be together.
Perfect. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. There's a fourth co-founder, not present at the moment, but this is the gang who's brought this all together. It's had a lot of incredible growth lately, so congratulations to you guys. But before we go into the world of, so let's even like crypto or Magic Eden, I'd like to go back in time a little bit and hear from each of you a little bit about your background and how you got into this space in the first place.
Yeah.
Sure. So I got into crypto in 2013 as like a gold maximalist libertarian, and I remember back then I was involved in the SF Bitcoin developer meetup group. So I was involved with a lot of the developer ecosystem stuff, and then started a Bitcoin company in Bitcoin Developer API, which was miserable. Company died. After I spent all the investors' money, I was homeless for a little bit. And then I was like, oh my God, fuck crypto. I need to take So I joined Uber. I worked at Uber for about 6 years. I was early member of Uber Eats. We launched Uber Eats together. And then I was in self-driving for Uber for 3 years. And then I went to Facebook. And then I'll let the guys tell the rest of the story. And then, it was during that time then Magic Eden started. But yeah, I'll pass the mic over.
Yeah. See, go for it.
Yeah, so my crypto journey started in 2017. So I had pretty traditional business background, did consulting for 3 years, moved to the US, been in SF since 2015. And then at the time I was working at this healthcare startup that was just really hard. Like healthcare is just like a really difficult, I think Raj has a similar story actually.
Yeah, healthcare, I think, background.
Just brutal. And I was like, man, like I came to the Bay Area, like there's got to be some more crazy, interesting stuff that's happening. And that was around the time like of the last cycle, it was just going off. And it was very hard to tell like signal from noise at that time, but I was lucky enough to meet a bunch of the early DeFi builders at the time. So shout out to Antonio and the DYDX team. I joined DYDX in early 2018 as a second employee. Spent 2.5 years building out a bunch of stuff at DYDX on the sort of BD product side of things, and then spent a year at Coinbase as a product manager on the institutional business. And then, then these guys came calling and started Magic Eden with them, 6 months ago.
Yeah. And I think my story is kind of actually a convergence of both of these guys, but actually everyone on the call, like including Tristan, actually. So yeah, my story was actually, I've known Sidney for a long time. We were high school, went to high school tutoring together. So like we know each other for like.
Shout out to Dr. He.
Dr. He in Melbourne, Australia. And then we know each other for so long. And when he started his Bitcoin company in 2013, that's when I started getting like learning more about crypto. I was like, holy shit, this thing seems crazy. And I was watching him do his Bitcoin thing. I was like, man, like there's definitely something here. But at that time, I just thought it was a little too early for someone like me with a business background to like really go full ape in. But from that time onwards, I've always been like watching the space really closely and just dabbling, buying tokens, doing ICOs, that kind of stuff. And then, we're all Aussies. So, and we were all in the Bay Area. A lot of the Aussies in the Bay Area all know each other just because of that Australian connection. So I met Zhuoxun, we became friends in SF in the Bay Area for quite a few years. And then I was working in big tech. I was working at Google at that time. And I was thinking of jumping into crypto. And I was talking to Zhuoxun like day and night about like which company to join. And I was thinking of joining FTX or like some other companies. And like Zhuoxun was like the dude that was saying like, dude, you should do something like, on the frontier, like don't do the big company thing. Like you should like go into a small company. And I was like listening to a lot of advice from Zhuoxun. So basically that was the story of like how I, went from really the inception of learning about crypto, which is from this guy, to then like jump into crypto and like jump into FTX, which was this guy. And then in that journey, I got introduced to Tristan, obviously, for FTX as well. So that's how that's Tristan's been part of that journey as well. So that's kind of a bit of my crypto story, which is pretty nice. All of the people there is part of this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, interconnected here. This is great. And I actually know Joshua from a while ago as well, I remember you were consulting for a little bit, you were kind of taking time off. Clearly it didn't last. You're like, I need to build something because you're back at it. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to hear a little bit more on kind of the genesis of Magic Eden. It seems like you guys all had the chops to do this anywhere. You could have built a competitor for OpenSea on Ethereum or gone to other new chains. I'd be curious how the Solana thesis came about, and when you guys decided to start building.
Yeah. I can jump in there, the other guys feel free. So I think I was working at FTX before Magic Eden, and but at the same time, Zhuoxun and we were looking at Solana even pre me joining FTX, maybe Q1, Q2 last year, we were already looking, we were doing a lot of DeFi stuff. So we were aping into different protocols in Avalanche, Solana. And so we're looking at it pretty closely. And in general, we had this thesis of, hey, we want to go to maybe a lot of the innovation and new use cases should be born from ecosystems where the cost of innovation is really low, right? And we could just see that happening with Solana, but also at that time, we thought, hey, maybe a few other chains could do it. And then, of course, I then spent some time at FTX, and I really just saw this ecosystem blossom. It was insane to see so much momentum, right? And not just from the surface area of how many apps were being built, that's in some ways that's a first order observation, but really you just saw so much talent getting excited about the Solana ecosystem. And a lot of that talent, first and foremost, was at FTX. The folks who were there were really smart, really into crypto, really thoughtful, big time risk takers as well. Thoughtful, but then know how to go hard. And I thought, man, if these folks are really getting into it, this ecosystem really has the chance to be massive. So that's why I got excited. And then I was kind of telling these guys, going, hey, you guys should look into Solana. And then the NFT boom kind of started. So maybe
I think for me, Jack and I were basically doing a bunch of stuff on Solana. I remember using Drift and Solend and some of these other early DeFi products in Solana and just thinking, actually feels kind of delightful. I haven't felt that in a while. I haven't felt that with a MetaMask transaction in a really long time. And at the same time, we were seeing the proliferation of a bunch of different NFT projects of all different types. Obviously the first wave was PFPs, and then you started to see more utility stuff. And we were seeing a lot of that happen on Solana. And that kind of basically born the thesis of we'll see newer use cases emerge on these newer layer ones. And that's the reason that we started to build this on Solana, because we kind of have this thesis that in general, with that lower experimentation cost, you'll just have the ability to create much more unique, immersive experiences such that the NFT marketplace feels a lot less like eBay over time and more like something that's actually truly immersive. That's obviously going to play out over a period of time. And it's not only going to play out on Solana, but we felt pretty strongly that the first wave of that would happen on Solana. And I think that's played out to be pretty true over the last 6 months. But that was very much the genesis for us. So that was around August, I want to say. And then we started building this proper around late August. I remember Labor Day in September was sort of the date in my mind where things got really serious.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the only thing I'll probably add is the first time programming on Solana was just, it felt pleasant. I mean, the developer tooling is definitely more raw, but then at the same time, you just don't need to worry about gas. It just, it's kind of like this light bulb moment there, a consumer application should be on somewhere that's fast, and I think, it's in hindsight, it's really obvious, but the first time they actually use the Solana ecosystem as a developer, you do feel the sense of there's something magic here. And I think that's probably the only thing I'll add there.
Yeah. Oh, I think that was important because these guys, they were all product builders. We didn't have to spend time thinking about deep level consensus algorithm. Does this thing make sense? What are the bottlenecks and stuff? you know, it really like freed, you know, the folks up to think about just experience, right? Like what's the value to the user and how we craft a beautiful next generation experience. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, it sounds like you guys could have pretty much chosen to build anything in the ecosystem. I'm curious how the decision for NFTs came around. I mean, because even back then, like before you guys started, and it's crazy that you guys launched so recently and already so big, by the way, that's just insane. But back then, even like Solana art existed, like there were some incumbents that seemed like they were dominating. What was the decision matrix there where you guys decided, okay, we're going to do NFTs and we're going to do a marketplace. We're just going to do it better than anyone. Maybe Joshua, if you want to start this one.
Yeah, I think there were two things. One, from a pure like product standpoint, we were using a lot of the other marketplaces that were out there, and we were kind of thinking like, man, if this is the primitive or representation of what's going to be like music, culture, like all of these different things will converge around NFTs, and these are the experiences around them. We're like, oh my God, that cannot be the experience. So that was like the first thing that we noticed. And then the second thing that I think got us all pretty excited was that NFTs are just really fun, right? They're inherently really social, really community oriented. And we felt that this was, you know, I'd spent so many years in DeFi and institutional, right? And I was ready to basically like, you know, go into something quite new on the frontier. And I think these guys felt the same way. And we immediately, like most people who've gotten into NFTs, were very, very quickly immersed in it. And the communities on Solana we felt were really different. And we felt that they were building some really interesting things that the traditional NFT marketplaces weren't really thinking about supporting. So that's like, I think those are the two reasons for me, but maybe, yeah, I don't know if you guys have any other.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I don't want to make myself sound smarter than I am, but, you know, back in 2013, I already I did a whole bunch of experiments on Bitcoin, and like people from that era probably remember OP return. We get 80 bytes on the blockchain, which people generally think that anyone that uses that is just polluting the Bitcoin blockchain, but I did. I thought it was fun. Like I remember like doing this thing called the love block. Was it diamonds are bullshit, but the blockchain is forever, where you can embed your love letters in the blockchain. Yeah. It didn't take off. It was big for one day. We launched on Valentine's Day. It was big that day, and then it died the next day. But I did a bunch of other stuff around like copyrights and stuff like that, you know, to embed that into the Bitcoin blockchain. Mm-hmm. And I remember back then I was already thinking about people, like, I don't want to claim credit, like people already talking about gaming, digital assets on the blockchain and so on. But when NFT finally took off, it turned out really differently from how I thought it would have taken off. And the community aspect was just so strong that it was something that I totally didn't foresee. And that was just that aspect of it. That was just like, it turned out to be a lot more fun, a lot more interesting, a lot more social. And it was kind of magical, right? And once you really, it's hard to get into or understand NFT, but once you get into it, it's kind of magical. And that to me was the genesis of like, yeah, like, you know, I felt like I've been wanting to do consumer applications on crypto since 2013. Obviously that totally didn't work for me. But when I got into NFT, I was like, yeah, like this is it. This is the moment that crypto is going to go like really, really mass consumer.
The last thing I'll add, I think it's also a testament to Rex, who's not here, like our fourth co-founder, also like Sid. Like these guys were super early engineers at Uber and Uber Eats. So they have like that marketplace DNA. Like Sid was there when Uber Eats was just like a Figma file. It was like a design file. And then he left when it was like doing tens of billions in GMV. So they have like very good intuition about like marketplaces, how to build like supply, demand, liquidity. You know, Zhuoxun came from Coinbase, DYDX. Some of the NFT marketplaces like very similar to exchanges, right? Like the business model, the dynamic. So there was like definitely like some skill fit there as well. I don't think we would have done very well if we did finance or anything like that. Like that's not really our game, and like there's people far better than us doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we definitely have a consumer team.
Yeah, well, like a consumer team. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, and that's what crypto needs at the end of the day. It just needs consumer-facing things if we want to grow the pie. Because I am excited for DeFi, and I have been seeing it, I think, stall a little bit. And I think it's just because the addressable market with it isn't as wide as things like NFTs. Because like one thing that resonated with me that you guys just said is like, the community aspect or NFTs, or like how NFTs bring people together. Like I haven't seen a ground surgence of things like this since like Instagram launch or like the early days of some of these social media applications. So yeah, totally agreed with what you guys were saying. Could you guys go into a little bit like what each of you guys do at the company? Like, is it full startup style in that everyone does whatever needs to be done? Did you guys kind of segment into roles? And how did you determine that at the beginning? Like, I'm always curious how teams come together and figure out like who's going to take care of what.
Oh, I'm the CTO, and then Rex, our fourth co-founder, is the chief engineer, and we can talk about like the differences, you know, kind of how we see like engineering management versus versus like a chief IC or like a chief technical person. But I think I can pass it over to you guys. But basically, I'm the dev.
If
you guys need a dev to do something, it's here. My DM's always open. Right? Like,
His DMs are actually always open.
It's actually open, right? Like people send me suggestions, we'll build it, and we're like, hey, it's here. But I'll pass it over to you guys.
Yeah, I'm COO, so lead sales, ops, marketing. I think in the early days, like it was very much all hands on deck. I remember the way we used to get listings done. It was crazy. It used to be like, "Hey Sid, we want to list this project on Magic Eden. Can you please like?"
We have a pager.
Yeah.
If it's important, like they will page me any time of the day. I'll be like,
I would page Sid and tell him there's money on the table, and then
list this shit now.
literally. But over time, now that the company is 65-ish, 70 people. We do have like more distinct sort of responsibilities now, and we have a pretty large sort of operations team that handles everything around listings, support, trust and safety, all very important functions. We have a large marketing team led by Tiff, who I think many people know in the community.
Tiff
and then sales and BD. So those are the sort of core things that I'm working on.
I'm CEO. But I think I like
also our general counsel.
Yeah, I think I'm like chief paperwork officer. What I do. And for me, I basically think of, and I think we take a lot of inspiration from my time at all of our times at startups, but also like what I saw at FTX, which is like very egalitarian and very like flat. Org. So I kind of just see myself as someone who tries to unblock things that's happening in the company. So I think a lot about, originally I thought a lot about product, like, how do we focus on certain priorities in the company? But now I think a lot about like decision-making in the company, like as we go to like the next phase of growth, how do we like create systems and processes that decision-making continues to be really fast, and things that got us to where we are here today, we continue to preserve, and things that we need to get better on, we number one, we surface that as like actual priorities in the company to discuss and make a push on. And then we just in the organization, we try to unblock those things. That's what I spend a lot of my time on.
I would trust everything with this guy except for tax. Just a word of mouth.
We're professionals.
Yeah, he's the lawyer, the accountant, janitor.
Is fucking amazing.
Yeah, because we're probably professionals.
Because I'm not doing it.
So did you take a lot of lessons from FTX? I think FTX FTX is like the manifestation of what it means to be like really, crypto company at the frontier. And I think we take a lot of lessons
to move fast.
How to move fast, how to, and understand the community. And I think we definitely learned a lot from FTX, even though I wasn't there, but by his stories. And we're trying to emulate the culture.
No, I mean, it's true. I totally agree. And I do see it reflected in the way you guys operate Magic Eden. And what I'd be curious to hear a little bit more about too is like, okay, when you guys started, it was the four of you and whoever, like first few employees, like that all makes sense. It's like simple to keep it that way. How did you guys figure out the processes of adding up to 65 people, right? Because like, what is the structure of, like, I don't know if command is the right word, but like, where do people get the cues of the things that they need to do? How do you set those expectations? Like, how did you guys do that organization building at the beginning?
That's a good question. I'll take a crack and like, everyone should jump in. So I think like number one, it's a learning process as well. Like we went from 12 people 4 months ago to 65 now. So it has scaled up really fast. And also we are also facing like growing pains in terms of communication, coordination, execution and stuff. So it's a learning process. I think to me there's like a couple of things. Number one, there is a focus on really understanding what were the true things that we did right that got us to where we are, and really trying to preserve that. And one of the first things that we did right was culture, like having this culture of like people who are true believers in crypto, right? Who are true believers in NFTs. And we did that in the way that we hired people, and we did that in the way that we like enabled and empowered people, and the way that we also kind of believe in and invest in like grassroots ideas that surface from the team. So that's like one. And throughout the whole company, to your question of like, how do we like, set the priorities or help people focus or get people to know what they do? Like we actually spend a lot of effort like heroing and championing that aspect to say, hey, this is the culture of Magic Eden, and we reward and we recognize and we appreciate this kind of behavior, right? And we say that, and I think we don't even say enough, but we really try to make an effort to say a lot, and we spend a lot of mind share talking about this. Yeah. Number two, I think like we try to keep the focus simple, in the sense of we also try to do a bunch of shit all at the same time. Like if you see our product, like the sidebar, there's like so many products that we have.
Right.
So we do like have a lot of things going on, but at the time of focus, we do tell people like, here's like 3 things that we have to do really, really well. And then the other things we say we want to do, but we should treat them as more like experimental and bets. And we also try to think about allocating people's time and resources to those things effectively. And we have like a leadership group that supports the founders, where we like try to mind meld those priorities with. Mm-hmm. And then number 3, like, this is stuff that we've just started going into because we're going to this like growth stage. We do think about like processes, forums, decisions, frequency, which is like, this comes to the time when like there's more new people at the company that like,
right
there originally. Yep. So like there's more people with less context than there are more people with the most context, right? And we do think about like, okay, what's the process to onboard people into the context? What's the process for people to surface feedback and make decisions? What's the process to give people clarity at the same time without going to Google or like Coinbase, which is the places we all, or Facebook, which is the place we all left because we didn't, we thought it was too slow, right, to really operate in the crypto world.
Maybe the only thing I'll probably add is that I think I feel like that it's also how, like, in addition to what he said, which is really important, it's the people that we hire people that's self-directed. They're already motivated, they already believe in the mission. And I think when you hire people like that, those people don't need a lot of management. I think when you hire really good people who are self-directed, those people need a vision, a common vision. And then once you give them that, they will find things to do along that vision. And you as management, you should just get out of their way. And I think that also really allows the scale is to hire people like that people that embrace the uncertainty, people that embrace the ambiguity, but they kind of bend around common vision, and they would then find things to do to help a company achieve that vision. I think like that's also just something that I'll pass to Zhuoxun.
I think that's really true, especially on the Eng team.
Yeah,
like the Eng guys, like the way we're very like light product management org, and that's like very intentional. Mm-hmm. We organize around kind of product pods right now, and those pods, have been mostly led by Eng, because we want them to feel as close as possible to the end users. And even as we've added people to the organization, while they've organized around those pods, at the end of the day, it's like we want every one of those people to feel really accountable to the product that they're delivering. So like one pod, for example, is like our marketplace. Another pod is like our launch pad, right? Mm-hmm. These are examples of pods that we organize around, and like we've tried really, really hard, and I think this will something will be continually a thing for us. Try really hard for those pods to be really, really accountable, such that it's, you know, there's not these like super heavy organizational decisions that have to be made. It's just like, yo, here's the metric. That's what we're going after. And the pod is just like going after it, right? That's what we've tried really hard. And in the early days, it was very natural because that's how we operated. Pretty okay. We were the first pod, basically. Right? It was like Sid, as the engineer, was hustling us, which was like something I've never seen before in an organization. And we want that culture to be really, really ringing through even as we grow.
Yeah, no, this all resonates a ton with me, and it is very similar to FTX's way. So I think that's really cool. Especially that whole side of not having too many product managers and having the people working on the product owning it themselves. I think just like that accountability is super valuable for people. One thing that might be helpful, that at least for me was super valuable when I started FTX, which is, you know, had the same culture of hiring just like self-directed people. And the good way I got an idea of like what the vision or where to direct myself is that Sam had these Google Drive full of like documents he had written up around different scenarios or the ways he thought about the world in different perspectives and how to work on things in different manners. And that was super valuable. And I've like made sure as one of my roles at FTX to keep like surfacing that every time new joiners come in. So I don't know if that's helpful for you guys. And another thing like I think is super powerful is what you were saying is like, if you hire self-directed people, you don't really have to hands-on manage them. Like all my hires at FTX have blessedly been kind of that nature. And it's like, it's interesting too, because you have to take like a gut bet with them. It's not like, oh, their resume is picture perfect, so they're going to like execute amazingly. It's like, wow, this person has drive and hunger, and I think they can come in and just do whatever needs to be done. So I mean, this makes a lot more sense to me, like why you guys are doing as well as you have been doing. Not to go on too long, but
I would say hard above experience. Like we look for hard first and foremost.
Or another way, like we've talked about, is like degen over polish.
Over polish.
We talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
And that has to be part of the DNA, no matter how big we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I have a hat as degen.
Yeah. No, I mean, when I got my job at FTX, the DM I sent Sam was literally like, I'll grab coffee and send letters. Like, I don't care. I just want to play a part in what you guys are doing. And I think if we can get enough people like that, it just makes an organization pretty super powered.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, you know, maybe I should have surfaced this earlier, but I think it's fine. Why don't we dive into the product? Like, do you guys want to walk me through Magic Eden? Maybe some of the developments you guys have had in it and where it stands now as a product?
You guys want? Okay, well, I mean, I can give you a quick overview. We have a couple of main, product lines. Like the most important product line is the marketplace product line. So it's a secondary market where people, trade NFTs. And then, another important product line to us is Launchpad, which Zhuoxun can speak more, where drops happen. And then from then on, we have a whole bunch of I would say more secondary product lines like Drop Calendar to help users discover new drops. We have an auctions product where we showcase many of the one-of-one auctions. We have a bit of a stats product which is not very fully built out today, and so on. Yeah, so I think those are probably the main lines of products that we have, but maybe I can let Zhuoxun talk a little bit more about Launchpad.
Yeah, I think the interesting ones maybe talk about is Launchpad, and I think the other one is Eden Games.
Eden Games.
So Launchpad is something that we actually started back in October.
We started very early.
And it was born out of this, we have a general creative first mindset. So it was born out of that mindset. It was like, what can we do to make it easier for creators to come and work with Magic Eden and work with NFTs, right? Because fundamentally, the easier it is for creators to come and actually use this as a community engagement tool, the more creators will come and actually interact with NFTs and use Magic Eden. So we built this this was in the sort of early, very, very early candy machine days. For those of you that are familiar with sort of how minting works on Solana, this was kind of one of the early contracts that came out.
Shout out to Jordan who wrote the contract.
Yeah.
Jordan
Bartosz, yes, sir.
JNB.
P&J. There's definitely some bromance going on.
Oh, for sure. Deep romances.
You know, some, it's very deep. No, but this was in those early days, and we thought, let's put a UI, a really nice front end experience around that, right? And that's sort of how Launchpad was born. And in the early days, it took 2 or 3 days for Rex, our co-founder, to actually get a Launchpad stood up. So we've come a long way since then. Yeah. But that thesis has never changed. It's basically, how can we build a set of creator tooling that makes it really easy for creators to come and work with Magic Eden? Then yeah, the second thing I think that's been more recent is we're building out, you can think about Magic Eden today as we're very much a generalized marketplace, but we've always said to ourselves, like, we will go where the users will go, right? And where are the users going in terms of NFTs today? It's like, obviously there's PFP community-based projects is one really big one. There's like artwork, which is, which is sort of growing pretty significantly. And then the other large one is obviously games. And there's a lot of activity, interest, excitement around how games will form around Solana and also other chains. So we've been building out sort of a verticalized experience around that category. And this is our first verticalized bet. And we love it because it sort of captures all of the dynamics that I think make NFTs really fun and interesting, right? Like, games are social, people love playing them, there's a lot of user-to-user engagement amongst games, which is really true for NFTs in general. So we built out Eden Games, which is basically a discovery portal for the best games on Solana today. So there's a number of things you can do there. We allow users to come and actually play and experience the game directly in Magic Eden. So you can, for example, click Eden Games, you'll see Mini Royale Nations. You can just literally start playing this first-person shooter directly on the site. And then maybe you'll realize, as Jack has realized, he's not very good at the game, right? And then he's like, oh, Jesus, I need to buy this AK-47 because I'm really
to compensate in other ways.
Then you're like, well, actually, there's an actual reason to then own the NFT, right? There's feel the value of it before you even need to buy the thing, right? And that's right. The whole premise of like, make this an immersive experience for our users. And then so we're doing a whole bunch of things with games, not just around this discovery portal, but also around like Launchpad. We help games with a bunch of infrastructure. So like anything that allows them to focus on the game, which is what they're really good at. And we want to take everything else away that's just like, you want some functionality to buy and sell and list and bid, all these things, like you should just use Magic Eden infrastructure, right? So we're helping games with all those things. But yeah, that's sort of one of the interesting sort of product bets that we're making that's, I think, pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, Eden Games is the first and the largest gaming NFT marketplace as well, even though it's like just a feature line within. Yeah, it's not just a product line within Magic Eden. It is the largest and the first NFT focused gaming marketplace. Like, we were the first to embed a game into a marketplace, so that like as you trade NFTs, you can also discover and experience the game. And
I think just riffing on that, like from a product perspective, we have these product lines, right, that we just talked about, like Launchpad, Core Marketplace, games, and for all of those, we want to deliver like a world-class experience, and then we want to be seen as a leading destination for all of those products for users to experience those things. So like even for games right now, like we like over 90% of gaming NFTs on Solana trade on Magic Eden, and we see that as a testament of like, hey, users actually believe in the thing that we're trying to do. We have a fourth philosophy, which is we want to push the boundaries of what's possible of NFTs on Solana. So we do want to be the first, like the most innovative marketplace to try a bunch of things. So on this front, like Eden Games for us started off as one of these kind of bets where we say, hey, like, let us try to have immersive experiences. Let us help with game discovery and see what we can do. And then as games started to resonate with us and we started trading 90% of gaming NFTs on Solana, we're like, oh, holy shit, we should break this out into a product line and really like tell the world that, hey, we have our vision is resonating and we should hone in on that vision. Some other examples for us would be like, we also want to be the premium destination, like we want to be the first and premium destination that serves some of these blue chip collections that's been coming along. So we're the first on Solana to launch SPL token support. We just announced it recently, like we want to do something with Rory and the Gods, which has been announced with a couple other things in the works, where we will basically support their own SPL token as currencies in the marketplace. Yep. And again, for us, it's just like, it's a way for us to say, hey, there are these amazing creators who are innovating and betting their whole careers on like, building utility and building this community up. How can we do something cool to support them as well? And we're proud to be the first marketplace on Solana to make that kind of support. And then just to wrap this up real quick, the other one would be like, we were the first to do this thing with Overtime, who is the operator of March Madness, to make, use NFTs as a ticket in like March Madness brackets, which will be the first time these NFT primitives are being used in that way. And we want to use that as a way to say, hey, like NFTs could be so much more than what you see on Solana or other places. And like Magic Eden is the way it is a good partner to innovate on some of these things.
Yeah, I mean, I think the distribution platform for the gaming is really interesting because there's just like this like fragmentation issue. Like in the real gaming world, you go to Steam and you can download all the different games that exist there. But that doesn't really work for dApps because essentially Steam's like, fuck you, you have NFTs, you can't be with us. So there's definitely a lot of value there. That's really interesting. And I totally agree, Joshua, with what you're saying, where like, yeah, we do have the PFP communities. We do have like the one-of-one art, which is still really small, I think, compared to the rest. And then there's like the people that want utility for their NFTs. So it makes sense. We're like, just go with the gaming. And then hopefully, like my hope, and like this kind of maybe touches on what you're saying with the March Madness stuff, is like NFTs can be like titles of homes or cars, and you bring liquidity to like very illiquid markets. That's my hope of the progression. I mean, we'll see where this goes. And so you guys have all these feature sets, you're building out the pods to work on each of these products. It seems like you guys are being very consumer facing. Where do you see this going? Like, what's your guys' thesis of what you're trying to capture? Or are you just kind of like going with the present moment and adapting as you see it?
I think it's a mix of both, actually. So we have a perspective, which, we want to go where the users are. We want to go where the creators are. And there's a few categories which we're specifically super excited about, like, the ones that we just talked about. And there's some channels that we're excited about too, which is like mobile and so on, right? But at the same time, I think we have this really healthy respect that you have to just stay close to the ground. And a lot of trends in crypto are extremely, extremely unpredictable. And the best is probably doing a bit of both, like being nimble to think, oh man, like when there's some new thing arrives, we should be well positioned or be nimble enough to position ourselves. But at the same time, we have some perspective of upcoming trends that's definitely going to take off, and we want to be, we want to go hard there.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys want to.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is why, like, as a cultural value, I was kind of not half joking about the degen over polish thing. Like, that's really important. Because I mean, in 6 months, like the NFT market on Solana has like changed considerably, right? You've gone from all these different types of meta games that are happening, all these different types of projects, and I think that's just in one ecosystem out of potentially 5 or 6 that will probably proliferate over the next 5 years, right? And so I think we generally just feel that the NFTs as a category or a market will be massive. And what the specific verticals of those are, like, I think is still very much yet to be determined. But it's really important to stay close to the grassroots level, which is why, like, some intentional things we do is have values like the one I just mentioned. We also hire from the community. Like, we've hired, I think, a third of our people, like 20 or so people, have either started NFT collections. We met them over Discord. They were involved in the community deeply in some way. And we've very intentionally brought those people into the company. And that's really important for us. So I think, yeah, we do have strong hypotheses on where the industry is going, but with very, very much like a humility around that, because I think we've all seen how quickly things can just move in crypto, not necessarily in NFTs, but just across the crypto markets in general.
Yep. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And it seems like a good way to approach it. And for you guys, like on a personal level, as you were saying, you're having these pods, you're having kind of like, seems like each of you has a little bit of focus on different pods, but still are looking at everything across the board. What are some of the things that I'd love to hear, like each of you kind of as a founder of this are looking to build out, or like, is there any like pet projects or like things that are really important to each of you?
Pet project. Too many. I think it's like my focus now. My priority for the organization for this month is like no more pet projects.
Now I'm just good. I bring too many pet projects, and then Sid is telling me no more pet projects.
I'll have to get out and like focus on the pod.
Coming an outsourced end shop for specific partners.
I mean, how far away?
Shout out Alex Bailey. Alex Bailey from far away.
Far away. Yeah,
no, but I think like, I mean, for me, yeah, the pet project for me was overtime. Like that was a really cool one, because I think we had been thinking a lot around, hey, what are some new use cases around NFTs, and actually embedding picks in a bracket competition directly into the metadata is amazing.
It is amazing.
It's amazing, right? Because that creates a market then for the brackets immediately. It's just it's the same concept, but you play the game in a different way, because originally, you pick your bracket, you really attach to your bracket. If your bracket fails, then all right, I'm done, right? Whereas in this case, you get a semi-randomized bracket airdropped into your wallet, and then that's progressing through the competition. It's maybe doing well or doing badly. You can sell it, whatever you want to do, right? It's just a different way to engage the fan base. And that's like one very, very specific example of ways that we can activate this fan base in sports. Right. And sports is not even a category that we're really in. It's kind of just like, let's do some experimental stuff here, because we're very early. And if like we want to find partners who are willing to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, we can't do too many of these things.
Yeah, I know.
It's gonna cut my head off.
Well, I have one too. I think like, all of these change on like a weekly, bi-weekly kind of basis. But one that I'm really excited about is, how do we, partner more deeply? I guess this is another 1%. But yeah, how do we just partner more deeply with the, the projects that's really showcasing the best of the ecosystem? So for example, like folks like DJ Apes, folks like, Dragons, folks like SMBs, and, how could, basically like, I think historically we've been a marketplace that like basically listed a bunch of stuff, served up a bunch of different collections. But now we're really thinking like, wow, like there's folks who are newcomers to the Solana ecosystem, and maybe Solana ecosystem is breaking the sound barrier of attracting just net new crypto people, like first-time crypto people. And those folks will always look to these collections as like the flagship, the hallmarks of what NFTs is about. I'm really thinking about like, what can we do to help them more? And we have had some examples, like with SPL support, we were the first to also launch like white label marketplaces for like Thugbirds and Geckos. But we're also thinking about like, how can we support some of these folks more? And very excited to explore that with some of these.
Yeah, just reduce the amount. Yeah.
Focus.
It's a wet blanket over
Yeah. No, I love the bracket games though. Like I think that NFT and sport just it's like a match made in heaven for sure. Without doubt in my mind that like, I think that sports is going to be a category for NFT that's going to explode over the next 18 months or so, for sure, as we find the formula. And I think like even just with this brackets thing, like it feels really different, right? Like as opposed to you pick your bracket and then by second round your bracket's dead. You pick a bracket and then you trade to a different bracket. And you're like emotionally attached to this thing from beginning to end. And I think that it blends itself really, really well to sports. And I think NFT, it also shows that NFT as a primitive is just extraordinarily powerful.
Yeah, totally agreed. All right, last question for you guys. Is there a life lesson or a habit that has really allowed you to live a better life that you think may help others?
Getting philosophical.
I don't know. I think I will start, keep it pretty simple. I think just like surround yourself with good people. And I think, love these guys, obviously. But that
Sounded a bit forced.
Obviously.
Sounded like a platitude.
I might just leave. Yeah.
I feel every day.
No, but I think that's really important. And like, even this is even true before, like before we started the company, right? Like, I don't think we would have done this if that were not true. Just, yeah, doing that, I think it opens up a bunch of opportunities and also just makes you happier in general. So,
Yeah. Like, I kind of feel that, yeah, like, I'll say like, maybe sometimes the thing that you fear is the thing that you want the most, right? And I even for me, like, I came from big tech, like Google. When I was jumping into crypto, I was like, fuck, like over analyzing everything. And then when I did, I was like, wow, this is the most amazing leap of faith I've ever made. And this is like just extraordinary. I could never imagine like working not in crypto for a long time, right? And then like jumping from FTX to Magic Eden, it was the same thing. It was a leap of faith, but then like it also turned out like it's been amazing. And I think, yeah, someone once gave me that advice. They're like, hey, the thing that you fear may be the thing that you should do, and it's the thing that your heart is telling you to really do. And I think that's been pretty powerful, pretty impactful.
Yeah, I think I think part for me is just find something that you love and believe in, and then don't overanalyze and let your curiosity take you. Yeah. And I think that's probably true in Magic too. Let's just let our curiosity take us.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. And thank you so much for coming on the episode. This was really fun.
Dude, thank you, man. Very much appreciate it.